Hey everybody, thank you for being here today. I know this last week has been very hard on all of Tennessee and all of you. It's been 1 week since a shooter entered the Covenant School and killed 6 Tennesseans. 1 week since we lost 3 children, 9 years old, and 3 community leaders and friends and teachers, loved ones. We'll continue to lift the families of those victims up in prayer in the days and weeks ahead. And it will not get easier for them. And I know that Tennesseans will continue to wrap them in love and in support. Last week after the shooting, we also lost 15 Tennesseans in devastating storms over the weekend. Suffering families all across our state. The Clarksville and Fort Campbell communities are reeling after 9 service members were lost in a helicopter crash. This past week will certainly be remembered as one of the most heartbreaking weeks in our state's history. And the history books will also reflect how Tennessee leaders responded in the wake of those tragedies. And that's why we're here today. Leaders in this state to announce a clear, definitive next step. We'll be presenting bipartisan solutions that we have all decided today, as of today, to do. These are practical, thoughtful solutions that we can all agree upon. We've been working on school safety for years, especially in the last year. But today is a time to enhance even the legislation that we have already brought forward. Today is the next step in steps we have taken, but it is not the last step. There is much to do even after today, and we together will continue to take those steps to move forward. In the next few weeks, I expect that the General Assembly will be bringing forward proposals that we can discuss, and those are all a part of the steps that we will take going forward. But today, we do want to talk about definitive steps that we're making today. Our proposal includes 3 key steps in addition to the bill that is currently before the legislature. First, I believe that we ought to have an armed guard, an armed security guard in every school in Tennessee. Our budget amendment will include $140 million for public schools to hire SROs and highly trained guards. With this funding, we're taking the burden off of teachers and schools and districts. There is no excuse to not have a guard at every school. Second, we will establish a grant fund to make significant physical security upgrades at both public and non-public schools all across the state. Third, we will increase funding for mental health resources. Double the amount of funding that we have for our school-based mental health liaisons so that we not only have one in every county, but that we have multiple in many counties. These are the 3 pillars. These are the additions that we will add to the provisions that we've already brought forward. Now, what we have done to date, prior to today, funding to place a home that will be in the budget, funding to place a Homeland Security agent in every Tennessee county to prevent threats before they become tragedies, and legislation to increase accountability around school safety, specifically to ensure that exterior doors are locked at all times while students are in the classroom. These are thoughtful, practical solutions that will enhance the safety of students and teachers immediately. But our conversations will continue, and we all agree that there is a serious conversation needed about school safety. It must begin with the recognition that we cannot control evil, but we can do something. In my State of the State address 2 months ago, I said that we will be working on this the rest of my time in office. That was the case before Covenant. It remains the case today. Our work to ensure the safety of Tennessee students and teachers will not stop. Maria and I will continue to lift these families up. We encourage you to do the same and ask that God bring peace to our state. Lieutenant Governor, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Governor. It's a rough problem that we have faced in these last few weeks, and I certainly applaud the governor for what he has already put in the budget, for what we have done since 2019 and made steps, and we're going to continue to make steps. Now, this year, I think, with the paying for the SROs in every school, making sure that schools are safe will be a giant step, I think, that we're taking this year, and we'll continue year after year to take steps to improve the safety of children, teachers, and personnel that are in our schools. But I'd like to introduce now a good friend and a great leader in the House of Representatives, Cameron Sexton.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And I don't think there's anybody in our state who saw the tragedy on Monday that was not emotional, that didn't cry about that tragedy and the families and the kids and the circumstances. And I know today we're standing up here to send the message that we are about protecting our children, whether they're at school, whether they're at home, whether they're in a community, and providing the resources to make that happen. They should be protected whether they're in private or public school, whether they're at school functions, and no child should feel unsafe when they go to school. I know today and last week when kids returned to school, there's a lot of children who felt unsafe to attend based on the actions of one very evil person on Monday. And so we have to do everything we can to protect our children. I appreciate the governor's announcement about adding SROs into every public school in our state. Let me just say, they're there to secure and be security for the school. But the role that they play internally is much greater than just being security. And when you talk to schools, that's what they will tell you. We also should expand to see if private schools need SROs. We should be able to allow them, if they need the funding, to help them have the funding to provide the same thing. No child in our state, regardless of where their choice of school is, should not feel safe. And then today we had students who were up here on the Hill, and Leader Lamberth and Chairman Faison had conversations with them. And you would assume they talked about guns, which is what they did. But the vast majority of that conversation dealt with mental health. Those students talked about mental health. We have a crisis in our state for young, for old, for everybody. We have to do a better job of providing treatment for individuals who need it, especially if they're suicidal or threatening to harm others. The governor's proposal expands this in K through 12 schools, gives the schools the capability to handle students in crisis at that moment of time. But the goal with that funding is not to just to handle crisis, but to build it and get into the schools so that they never get to crisis. It's going to take a team approach for us to protect our children, for us to protect our citizens. And some districts have been providing these behavioral health or mental health services in our state. And they've been paying for it themselves. And they have seen great success in reducing the number of disruptions in school, reducing the number of mental health issues in school, increasing attendance, and increasing performance. This piece by the governor will be another key piece into protecting our children in school. And I know that this is just the first step in many steps we're going to talk about, but it's a very important step. I appreciate my colleagues in the House and the Senate and Representative Parkinson, who's here with us, standing up here to tell you this is important to Republicans, to Democrats, to independents, to Tennesseans. Thank you, Leader Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Governor Lee, I want to thank you and your staff for bringing forth not just this very, very bold, decisive proposal today for the General Assembly to consider, but I also want to thank you for your leadership over the last 4 years. You have made school safety a priority. I recall back in 2019 when you agreed to fund, I believe it was north of $20 million a year to fund additional school resource officers in school. I also recall, Governor, that you came to me in my office back early this session, and one of your top legislative initiatives for this year was a comprehensive school safety bill, and it was a good bill. But I'm very excited today that we're talking about an even better bill. When you look at the amount of money, Governor, that you're proposing for school safety, school hardening, school resource officers, and as Speaker Sexton said, the very critical component of making sure that access to mental health care is available for all Tennesseans. This proposal, I think, takes us in a very, very big step towards the direction that we need to go. I'm very pleased, Governor, to tell you that I'm prepared, along with my Senate colleagues and my friends in the House, to work with you diligently over the coming days and weeks to not only get this very monumental proposal passed in the General Assembly, but to continue to work with you in the days, weeks, and months ahead to work with our stakeholders back in our local communities to continue to try to identify ways that we can make our kids safer when they go to school each and every day. It's the least that we can do. Our constituents demand it, and we owe it to them to give it our very, very best effort. So I look forward to getting this legislation through committee with my colleagues in the Senate. I want to thank those that are here. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for being here. I think it's a recognition of how important we think that this initiative is, and look very forward to getting this bill to your desk and any others that we need in order to get legislation passed to make our kids the safest in the nation. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Leader Johnson. Thank you, Governor, for your bold leadership on this issue, and both speakers and members of the House and the Senate. I know the last week's been rough for everybody. We know evil exists in this world, and we think about it as a hypothetical thing that's out there. But when it lands in one of our schools, when it kills our children, when you have one evil person that decides to just take the innocence of not only the kids in that school, but every school in this state, it's unacceptable. Years ago, we talked about SROs in every school, and we've had that conversation. And the conversation was basically an agreement that, well, that's a local expense. That's a local issue that's with the Sheriff's Department and the school board. The safety of every child in Tennessee is our responsibility. And Governor, I thank you for leading us forward to make sure that from this point forward, with $140 million plus, that our schools will be safe, much safer than they were beforehand. Evil does exist. We can't stop a tornado from ripping through our neighborhoods. We can't stop a helicopter from crashing and destroying families for generations. But we can, we shall, and we will stop school shooters from ever entering into our schools. And if that message isn't clear enough, let it be heard from Mountain City to Memphis. If some evil person wants to try to kill our kids, you will be dead before you hit the front door. That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, each one of you and all of you, for being here and standing up together to show Tennesseans that collectively the leadership in our office in the General Assembly is working to find the way forward to look not only at the solutions that we lay out today, but solutions that will be worked together in the weeks to come to make our state a safer place so that all of our kids can come home safely after school. Happy to open it up to questions.
Let's start on this side, y'all.
All right.
If y'all would just speak up, just since there's a little bit of distance between you, Governor.
Governor, a lot of the proposals made today involve hardening schools. There's some talk about mental health, people who might be suicidal or threatening to harm. But what about the other side of this, the equation? If someone is
I think that one of the things that we probably all agree on is that a person who is a threat to themselves or a threat to others should not have access to weapons. And to the degree that we can do that, protecting the constitutional rights of our people at the same time, including that person, the way that we do that together is the way forward. We should look at ways to accomplish that. That's what I anticipate the members of the General Assembly will contemplate and work together to provide. There are any number of ways that that can be accomplished, and we should look at all of those ways. And I expect that's what will happen the next few weeks.
There's a red line law was passed within months after talking to you in Florida. And do you expect to see something this session that would directly address people access to firearms if they are on the United States filter?
Yeah, what I expect is that there will be an opportunity to look at legislation around the country at ways that we can, in fact, do that very thing, which is make sure that those who are a threat to our people, to our children, do not have access to weapons, protecting the constitutional rights of Tennesseans at the same time. That is the way forward. Andy?
Governor, you said several years ago that you and the General Assembly set aside, I don't remember, $200 million for mental health issues. Are you going to be pulling any of that, using any of that for this, or, I mean?
So what we created is a mental health trust fund that would, for into perpetuity, provide continuous repetitive funding going forward. That's what that trust fund was set up for, and those the proceeds from that fund and that investment as a plan to provide funding for many years into the future, those funds will be used. But what we're talking about today is doubling the amount of money that we currently put in place for mental health school liaisons that, and by the way, it's important to remember we're also proposing a Homeland Security agent in every county. So we would have a Homeland Security agent working together with local law enforcement and a mental health liaison in a school and an SRO in that school. There'd be a comprehensive county-by-county approach to look for challenges far before they enter a school. Multiple steps along the way of coordinated effort. That's how we will invest the dollars for mental health services going forward. But the answer is yes, we will in the future use those dollars in that trust fund that is established to create funds into perpetuity. Our plan is not to pull out of that trust fund. It's to use the proceeds from it. Marta.
So following up on Melissa's question, are you saying that you would support a red flag law?
I'm saying that I'm asking the General Assembly to bring forth a number of proposals, to look at any proposal on the table that will accomplish what I think is most important, keeping those that are a danger away from weapons and protecting constitutional rights. That is something that can be done, and we should find a way to do that going forward. Whatever that looks like, I'm open to that.
One more. So your SROs are a centerpiece of what you're talking about. District leaders will tell you that they want to hire SROs, but they cannot find them. There's a shortage. Just putting money in place
Yeah.
for that is not enough.
Yeah.
How do we address the supply gap?
I think, workforce challenges are enormous all across the state. We've worked really hard even to recruit troopers into the Highway Patrol. So we acknowledge that law enforcement recruitment is very difficult. But the very first step, you have to take away the restrictions to a district. The very first one is the dollars involved in hiring one of these officers. We'll work together with districts to work together with local law enforcement agencies to find ways to get these. We have put, if I'm not mistaken the numbers, we have put 200 SROs in schools since I came into office in 2019. There are SROs out there. We will work together with districts to help find them. But the most important thing to do is to make it, the most difficult part for them is to come up with the funding. Sorry.
Box 17?
Yes, Governor, if there is a school district or multiple school districts that are resistant to having SROs in some schools, potentially elementary schools, will they face any type of penalty or reduction or lack of funding?
Well, I think, for example, we penalize schools who don't want to comply with locking their exterior doors. We haven't looked yet in this, at the details, or I haven't looked yet at the details of compliance, but I would expect every school district, I would expect every parent that has a school and a kid to hope that their school district and their individual school would use funds from the state to put an SRO in their school.
Chris?
So, Governor, if you went down the red flag route and you got some opposition from the NRA, from the Tennessee Firearms Association, are you willing to stand up against those organizations if it's what you feel like is the right thing to do?
Hey, can I, first of all, let's just acknowledge the term red flag laws means a lot of things to a lot of different people. That's the reason when you keep asking me about a specific issue regarding a red flag law, I'm looking for answers that separate dangerous people from firearms and protect constitutional rights. That is very important that we do that. Whatever it's called, that's what it should accomplish. And I'm standing here saying that that's what we should do going forward.
With that in mind, is there a state that does that the right way in your mind?
I think that's one of the things we've got to look at over the next few days is the number of options that are out there, what are best practices, and what works best for our state. And that we, look, my view is that we should come together with a thoughtful, practical solution that we can agree upon. And that's a very important component. This is obviously an issue that is emotional and charged, but we have to find, in order to move forward, we have to find something that we can agree upon. And that's important for me going forward. Chris.
When you talk about, I know you said red flag laws and a lot of things, you want to keep separate guns from people who are dangerous. Well, in your personal opinion, what is the best way to do that?
Oh, I don't have a personal opinion about the best way to do that. I have a strong belief that we should accomplish it. My thought is that we should look at a lot of options, and we should look at a lot of opportunities to accomplish that.
Quick follow-up. if that's
Yep.
okay.
Mhm.
When you talk a little bit about this proposal specifically, there's nothing pertaining to firearms or guns or anything
Right.
like that. Was that discussed at all? And if so, was that even a serious conversation to
Well-
maybe restrict or do something along those lines?
I think we ought to have real serious conversations about how we accomplish this, which I've brought forth, and that certainly requires more than a week. What we've proposed today are primarily significantly strengthening the component of the school safety bill that was already before the legislature, before this covenant event. It's important to remember we have been working on this significantly for a year, and thus the school safety bill. It's significantly enhanced by the announcements today, but we need to have a serious conversation about steps forward, and that certainly takes more than a week. Yeah. Kimberly? Yeah.
Everybody? And then we got WBIR in the back.
Yep.
No,
Kim? Yeah.
I was saying thank you,
No.
sorry.
So you said there is agreement that, anyone who's a threat to themselves should not, have access to a weapon. However, there's no proposal today on
Right.
that. You're looking to the legislature to bring forth maybe a solution. We have a chairman standing right behind you that said he's not gonna listen to any gun bills for the rest of the session. How are you not expecting, people saying, are you just kicking the issue down the road? We'll just deal with school security, and hopefully people will just, we'll just wait out the calls for maybe gun control.
Yeah. No, I think, as I said before, I think we all agree that there is, and that we all agree that we should find something that we can agree upon that accomplishes the things that I've already laid out. I think we can do that. I think we should do that. I think we will work really hard to accomplish that. I believe it's possible.
Have you asked Senator Gardner if he's going to consider any gun legislation?
I have not spoken with him about that.
Let's make sure we get everybody WBIR in the back from Knoxville.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Governor.
Good.
I wanted to ask, just what's your message to the thousands of school children who took the day off today and marched at the Capitol? And just what do you take of the message that they're sending to you guys, all the lawmakers of the state?
Yeah, first thing I would say to them is, and I say this to young people often, please don't let this be the last time you come to the Capitol. This is a government of the people, and when the people make their voices known through peaceful protest, through meeting with legislators, to coming there to meet on a specific issue with a group of leaders, when the people engage with their elected officials, then a government of the people works the way it should. So I value input, especially young people who are engaging in the process. So it's important. I also would say to them that you're heard. You know what? There's no one in this state whose heart was not ripped apart by what happened a week ago. I can't imagine the heartache of some of the families that endured what they did last week. There is a desire to find a way forward that protects kids in schools in a better way than we have today. That's what I would say to them. We care very much about them coming home safely, and we will work together to find agreement on a way to move forward.
I think we've got time for Sam.
Yeah,
Yep.
on the Attorney General negotiated a deal with the company or the group from California that sued the state over the constitutional carry bill. Did you agree with how the Attorney General negotiated that agreement to drop the permitless carry bill down to 18?
I haven't spoken with Attorney General about how he, or specifics to what you suggest there. I think the bill that we have in place is as it should be.
The bill is the law or
The law that we have in place today, in my view, is a law as it should be.
So you disagree with the bill that would drop the carry age to 18? And do you disagree with the AG's decision to basically drop the age to 18?
I would simply say that I think the bill that I proposed and brought forward is a bill, by the way, that is designed for law-abiding citizen, and it's designed the way it should be for our state. You had, I don't want to leave anybody out. You had a question, sir.
Yes, Governor, I was getting more very emotional out there, and I put my camera away many times to talk to you, but have you went out to visit that place and just feel what it feels like to you?
I drive by it every day, sir.
But have you stopped and just felt it? I mean, you can feel God there.
Well, I drive by it every day, and I have attended the funeral of one of the victims. Every one of us, in our own unique way, grieves and deals with and walks through tragedy. Tennesseans are doing that. And as I've said, it evokes all kinds of emotion in people, and we've seen that throughout this week, and it's clearly understandable that those emotions have been evoked. I have been encouraged by the outpouring for the families and the ways that people have shown outreach to the victims. I feel the same way.
Last question, Blaze.
Yeah, just, I arrived late, sorry about that, Governor, but, is there any thought of going further, on this legislation, or is this just the first step?
Yes, sir. I will say this is the first step, and there will be many steps. This is a very important one. It strengthens the work that we've already done to date, but we have a lot of conversations to have and a lot of opportunity to strengthen going forward.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all very much.